is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jan Faria, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Yes.
Take one. Well done.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Ready? Play.
Have we lost the final friend of the show today with Jasmine Paolini? I just realized. But great. Anyway, we had some incredible wins, incredible losses for our people this Australian Open. Anyway, we had a last-minute withdrawal, so you're stuck with just me, guys, and it's going to be just me talking to you about the Last Ball Drops show. You know, we could produce like this tweet where it's out Fergus, in lucky loser, alternate, or just list maxed out or something like that. And well, maybe the lucky loser is me. So forgive me if this one is probably going to be a bit shorter, although knowing myself, I will still be talking for like an hour. Anyway, Matthew is already talking about that Rune match. Let's actually start there then. I mean, let's just start with the men's draw. We've just had that finish, so this probably is the freshest in everybody's memory. Holger Rune defeats Miomir Kecmanovic in 5 sets. It's already been 14 sets played for the Dane coming into the 4th round of the Australian Open. Of course, we have just finished the 4th round. Fergus was gassed from his last match with Isabel. Was there a discussion between them? Well, I've had my fair share back in the day. Anyway, yeah, I mean, Holger Rune winning this one. This is just a classic example, right, of the Rune power. He's like 2-4, love 30 down in the 4th set. On return, blasts a ridiculous forehand that barely catches the line. Blasts a return winner, wins that game just, you know, with 4 winners in a row or something like that. And then, yeah, I mean, he just basically becomes even more dangerous, even though he's cramping, even though he's struggling, and even though he's just absolutely dead. So it's a classic Holger Rune trope. I'm not saying that he should be... wow. Okay, Matthew, that's a big call from you, to be honest. I will, of course, also refer to this match in a moment. John just wanted a personal day. Perhaps he's just crying over Taylor Fritz. Anyway, when it comes to Holger Rune playing Miomir Kecmanovic here, it's just once more that trope. I'm not saying that Rune should be just coming out into every match and blasting the ball as hard as he can. But the thing is, when the guy is like almost down, when the guy is barely out, like he has barely any energy left, he actually becomes more dangerous a lot of the time. And we saw it again. You know, he has to go after his shots. He has the crazy shot-making talent, the simple ball-striking quality to be pulling this off. His forehand suddenly looks a lot better because there's, you know, there's no like that sort of like weird pause in the middle of the swing. That isn't really happening either. So basically, Rune is just crashing the ball and he's winning. Of course, that was not exactly the case in the 5th set. That, you know, it wasn't as simple, maybe. He had that first game when he doesn't convert a lot 40, and it just kind of keeps going. Somehow, even though his physical state is getting worse, he still pulls through. And when it comes to the entire event for Holger so far, I mean, 5 sets against Zhang, 4 sets against Berrettini, these matches had him playing like pretty smart tennis for the most part, only to fall into like further setbacks. Today, I think we saw a lot of setbacks as well, but of course also a very different opponent, Kecmanovic, who was not really like, I mean, Holger Rune's forehand, it looks like Menchik's exactly, or like old Coco Gauff in a way. Like when he has time on it, he's just really struggling to get through it. There's a big take back that is not really necessary, and yeah, it's just an overcomplicated, difficult to execute shot, which is literally hampering his career. But anyway, Rune is mentally clutch. Yeah, he can be. Let's just say he can be. Everybody is clutch sometimes. Everybody is the choker sometimes. But yeah, his body is obviously another story. You're right, Sean. I mean, he was already tired in the opening round against Triple Z. Now, I mean, what's coming up next for him is obviously the steamrolling bulldozer Yannick Sinner. And well, I don't think that's going to help, right? The thing is that their matchup has been very close so far. Rune and Sinner, 4 matches, 2-2. Even the ones that Sinner won, they were pretty competitive. The ATP Finals 2023, so already in the post-Puke Sinner version. But yeah, I mean, we haven't seen them compete against each other for a while now. Okay, Monte Carlo last year, sure. That was an impressive performance from Rune, who was also super tired going into that match and sort of still managed to keep going and keep fighting, actually push Sinner. And I was thinking it might be the same. Like, it might be basically here that Rune also arrives in this match, let's say after a 4-set win over Kecmanovic, and, just gives Sinner a run for his money. And that sort of a tournament already would be perceived, I think, with where Rune is right now, as a win. Win 3 matches, win 3 tough battles, and give Sinner a run for his money. However, at this point in time, after watching what happened today, I'm not fully positive that this is going to happen. And we'll see. Rune's game is better suited for clay. Imo, part of that is that forehand, actually. When he has enough time on it, it definitely becomes a little easier for him not to just overcomplicate things. But yeah, obviously he's got a good defensive counter-punching game. I think especially the way he played against Berrettini and Zhang, he was really showing that, and he was playing so smart in these matches up until more setbacks. But yeah, I mean, Kecmanovic today, of course, a very different story. Someone who is just trying to beat you with relentless consistency of the ground. And in this case, it wasn't enough. Either way, I already mentioned Sinner, who is just crashing everybody left and right, which we were expecting. Today, a match against Marcos Giron. Honestly, nothing to add, right? I mean, this was definitely a more solid performance than the one against Tristan Skulkate. In terms of whether, this really gives us any indicator of whether Yannick will be amazing in the latter stages of the week as well, like let's say come the final. Because honestly, with the way that the draw is shaping up right now, we might just basically expect Sinner to make the final, dropping almost no sets. And then in the final, this is where he gets his big challenge. So yeah, I don't think we've had any real indicator of Sinner's form. We know how high his floor is at the moment. We know how incredibly effective he is at beating almost everybody on tour outside of the few top guys. And really, these few top guys are also just a couple of people. So yeah, I don't think we've really learned all that much. I was excited for that Sinner Rune clash potentially, because I think even if Sinner pushed aside Rune in straight sets with absolutely zero issues, that would already tell us something, that he's ready. Whereas right now, I guess we're gonna have to see how Holger's body holds up on the day, and whether he will actually be able to trouble Sinner whatsoever. Because previously in the matchup, yes, I mean, he was able to do that, but it's been a while. It's been a while since they played on hard courts, over a year. I'm not sure these things still hold up, but I would like them to. I mean, I would like to see a very competitive match. At this point, of course, also recovery for the Dane is going to be quite important. All right, so we've talked about these two. Now we also have, let's just talk about the matches that are on the screen. So the 2 Americans progressing here. There's actually one more American progressing today. But also one American that was upset. But anyway, let's just see this one. So Shelton beating Musetti in 4 sets. Honestly, maybe even a little tighter than the scoreline. I think by the end of the 3rd set, they were going pretty much even in total points won. Ben just playing, his tennis, very aggressive, lots of good shot making, going to the net. In fact, I think it was the 2nd set where he kind of went a bit quiet, and you could see right away that it hurt him. Musetti had quite a bit of time to actually start outmaneuvering him. It's not like the fastest court we've seen at the Australian Open, definitely not. Surprised by Musetti here, Ghosty. Yeah, I was definitely pulling for Shelton and think he's the favorite right now to reach the semifinals in that section, where we're going to have Shelton Monfils against Tien Sonego. Also one of just 2 players there, obviously, who have reached a Grand Slam semifinal before, even just one of 2 who have reached the Grand Slam quarterfinal before. But yeah, then the 4th set, I guess, was the interesting part. Was kind of it was kind of sticky there, because Shelton was free love up. He gets broken right back, and And basically, it felt like he got himself into some more unnecessary trouble. But we know that matchup is a great sort of like shot-making feast between the two. Definitely two of the more entertaining players of their generation. We will see whether they actually turn it into big titles, because it feels like Musetti and Shelton are actually in a pretty similar spot in their careers right now. Like, it's obvious they're top 20 guys. Now the question is whether there's something more in there or not. Let's talk about what also Ghosty, what's Miomir's next step? Can he ever get over this hump? What hump? I mean, I don't think there's any hump there. Kecmanovic is what he is, he was super solid as a junior, won the Orange Ball, won Eddie Heron, was number 1 at the end of that year, and that's kind of where his game still is, right? Yeah, it's just good consistency, solid stuff. He had that one incredible Sunshine double, but it was still just that, just relentless, and that's kind of always going to be his game. And you got to live with that. But of course, a very good tournament for him. Loses a lot of close matches like this. Don't you think it's actually related, though? I mean, you look at Rune and the way he played in the last 2 sets, cramping, but literally just started going for his shots. And when it's clicking, like, there's not much that Miomir can do about it. And I think Kecmanovic, to his credit, will always be like, 30-ish in the world, and that's kind of it. If he's even 30-ish in the world, which he is not right now, but I think he definitely can be. Into that top 30, maybe into a seeding position at the Slam again. Why not? It's just tough to see him going even further than this. We also have Lerner Tien on the screen. He beat Corentin Moutet in 3 sets. Some physical issues for Moutet, although some people were doubting the sort of like the serious, sort of like the real nature, let's say, of this injury, or like, was it even just cramping, or was he just faking? I saw a lot of comments like this. Regardless, he was pretty much outplayed in the last 2 sets. Lerner won that first set tiebreak, which definitely ended up being quite crucial. One more encounter between like 2 pretty underpowered players, but who try to outsmart each other and just try to throw each other curveballs. And Lerner was much better at that. He's so resourceful. He's been incredible, just using what he has at hand, basically, this event, and making sure that the other player never knows what's coming, and that the other player is incredibly frustrated with whatever is flying over to his side of the net from the American. So it was definitely, the first set was definitely fun, because, they just play so similarly in a way, and that it's going to be another one of these chess matches. Either way, Moutet, he's going to be a bit disappointed with this, but Lerner goes to break the top 100 already. He was at 98, I think, in the live rankings before this match. So basically, he had a chance, but it would have been dependent on the second week of the Australian Open and how the players do it, the challengers there. And now he's got that. Now he's got that 4th round, so he's going to be at 80 in the live rankings, and he's going to play Lorenzo Sonego, which is pretty wild, because this is such a good opportunity for both. For Tien, obviously, this is his first Grand Slam main draw outside the US. He played Frances Tiafoe in 2023 in New York. Also, Miomir Kecmanovic, speak of the devil, in 2023 and in 2022 at the US Open, and last year Arthur Fils. So he had just 3 Grand Slam main draw matches. Now he's in the 4th round, whereas Sonego has had 3 4th rounds before. One of them he lost to Schwartzman, one of them to Khachanov, and one of them to Federer, 2 at Roland Garros, I think, and 1 at Wimbledon. Either way, he beat Marozsan today. This was just kind of 6-3 for Fabi in the second set tiebreak. He gives a few, the points that were on Sonego's serve, they were very good. Just, quick actions, quick combinations from the Italian. And then Marozsan gives that one error away, really, and it decides the whole match. After that, he kind of gassed out, which is understandable, considering that in the first and second rounds, Marozsan was another one of these players who were coming through 5-setters. Is Rune one of those guys who can get under Sinner's skin? Who did you see getting under Sinner's skin over the past year? I'm not, saying it's a stupid opinion or something like that. I'm just asking, because I'm not sure I've seen anybody. I mean, Medvedev, Tsitsipas, who beat him, Rublev. I mean, maybe Alcaraz, just because he has like the better intangibles over Sinner, in the sense that he's like a better micro adjustment. He's better at micro adjustments mid match. He's, let's say, just more varied, more versatile, and in that sense, Rune is, also capable of doing something similar, definitely. But I don't know if we ever really see anyone get under Sinner's skin anymore. Plus, Yannick is so like, with his reactions on the court, he's not exactly all that. He's not going to show you all that much. So I don't think we can ever really truly tell that, maybe. But anyway, Sonego, just ended up dominating the last 2 sets. They were just easy breaks right away. So I was just basically done in the third and fourth sets when he broke so early. I only so we only saw him get angry once. I can't remember the example, but I think you're like it sounds, it rings a bell, let's say that. Anyway, Sonego will play Tien. Very tough matchup to say anything about, because again, this is Lerner and we are still learning about how he's going to sort of be approaching certain matchups on the ATP Tour. This event has been weird, definitely, because first round Lerner goes 5 with Ugo Carabelli, technically like a hard courter who is 20 times worse than him, but simply somebody who's going to make him play a bit more and get him into that dogfight of the ground, but still feel comfortable in it, unlike, Medvedev did, for example. And then, of course, he plays Medvedev, Mute, like 2 guys who also have similar playstyles, let's say, to Lerner in many respects. So Sonego is just very different, right? It's going to be like a very classic match between someone who is going to try to defend, throw off Sonego with the lefty spin, with the slices, with the angles, whereas Lorenzo has that forehand shot making and the ball striking power. And it's very hard to say what's going to happen there. I mean, he came through qualies and he almost lost to Grégoire Barrère in the opening round, but I also can't really compare Grégoire Barrère to Lorenzo Sonego with the flat hitting power of the Frenchman and how sort of like he's even more forward oriented or like more hit or miss than Sonego. It's just very hard to say anything about that matchup going forward. But anyway, Sonego, of course, he earned his spot there as well with that great performance against Fonseca, and now also beating Marozsan with that clutch second set tiebreak, just basically deciding the match. Alex de Minaur, Francisco Cerundolo, this was 91, I think, unforced errors from the Argentinian, but it is what it is, right? You're playing Alex, you know that you're in for a long day at the office, you know that it's going to be tough to hit through him. And it was, indeed, it was. If you look at just stats in that match, it's going to be like, you're not going to be impressed. Let's just say that, because Alex, I think, also was on like 20 winners and 60 something unforced errors. It wasn't a beautiful affair. It was definitely quite gritty and ugly, but that actually suits Demon a lot with his defensive qualities, with his speed. So he just gets going, he just pulls through. And so far, he's like well along the way into doing everything that we have expected, I think. As in, like, de Minaur at this event is just like, win 4 matches, lose to Sinner. Like, this is the plan. There's no plan. There's no minimum expectation, coming back to that Nick article. There's no like something he can do that's more than that, unless somebody stops Sinner. And everybody has already failed at that, but Rune, right? So, I mean, what can you do? Indeed, Leolia Jean-Jean can't play every match, and she's not even trying to, with her losing in the opening rounds of so many events. Also, Gael Monfils, I mean, honestly, the story of the day. I do not understand how he got this win. I mean, I do understand because I watched it, but it was just a ridiculous performance for 38, because the entire career, it feels like Gael Monfils has been struggling to, let's say, just find the right balance between being able to just counterattack on a whim, just blast the ball as hard as he can when he finds that good opening, when he secures that great shot for himself, and just pushing, just literally being a little bit too defensive and relying purely on the fact that he's a fast, quick athlete. And it's something that he was never really getting right in his entire career. And I feel like this is one of the best performances he's ever given us at 38. This was also very much a day of like one-dimensional players struggling. You're gonna get this a lot with Mikkelsen and Khachanov as well in a moment. But Taylor Fritz is one of these guys who like just literally gets the same ball every single time. Cross court, no guts on it, no risk, just sort of make sure that it's in. It's good ball striking, it's clean, it's technically sharp, but it is the same ball time and time again. And Gael Monfils just like exploited that to perfection. First of all, he had zero issues just like reading what Taylor was about to do. I get that at 38 his raw speed isn't the same, but his anticipation is amazing. And every single time, like Taylor isn't going to follow it up to the net because he's just not comfortable there. And Gael eventually will get that one, that one ball down the line that he is seeking for. And he was taking that to perfection. Like, this was actually a pretty aggressive display, like in his own way. Yes, it's more attacking from the, again, from the back row, if you may, but it's fine. Like, this is exactly what he's been trying to pull off his entire career and very rarely got the balance right. Today, absolutely fantastic. He took the racket in many ways out of Taylor's hands. And to get this upset after going 5 sets in the opening round, after the Auckland title, just incredible. It's truly a magnificent story. And he obviously has chances going forward too. Like against Shelton in the 4th round, maybe he's even going to be pushing, even more. And maybe in that matchup, it will be fine. Anyway, let's go with Alex Mikkelsen as well over Karen Khachanov. And as I said, this was the day of the demise of one dimensionality, because Khachanov is another one of these guys who just, he's strong physically. He plays the same ball every single time. And for many players, it's enough. Whereas Alex Mikkelsen, he just takes the game to Karen in basically not allowing him to stay in these comfortable patterns. Rushing the net, just making sure that never, ever they're stuck in this long cross-court point with Karen feeling, very at ease with what's happening. He's always threatening to go backhand line, that trademark shot of Mikkelsen. To me, this was a more impressive performance for sure than against Tsitsipas. He didn't have anything like this to attack, basically. And Alex is 20. Did I say that he's not? I don't know. Was there something? I don't know. Because he's not a team to Ghosty. No, I'm just ignoring the comment from Ghosty because, well, current results have absolutely zero to do with ceiling. But he's serving volleys, he rips and charges. In the points, he's also on top of the net very quickly. But then even if he's stuck in the baseline point, he just goes line. And it's going to be enough, again, because he's executing it to perfection. And guys like Fritz and Khachanov, they literally just paid for being who they are today. So for being like overly safe with their games. Obviously, it took spectacular performances for them to get punished, but they did. So either way, that was basically the men's action for today. I'm not going to spend too much time just previewing what's to come later in the week with their 4th round matches. Of course, there's going to be more time for it on the next Last Ball Drop show. But either way, we have Sinner against Rune. I already mentioned a lot about that. We have Alex de Minaur taking on Alex Mikkelsen now. Quite interesting. I think maybe in a way it's actually easier for it's actually maybe tougher for de Minaur than if Khachanov was going to be there, because again, Mikkelsen is just more unpredictable. But, that's something for another day, as I said. And we have this crazy 4-player section where we have Monfils, where we have Shelton playing him, and we also have Sonego coming up against Lerner Tien. Korda's ceiling is still very, very high. And in fact, he was at number 15 in the world just a second ago. He was in the Australian Open quarterfinals just 2 years ago, right? Did anyone think that Korda was going to be like the next Grand Slam champion? Probably not. Anyway, oh no, actually over Fonseca's. Okay, Ghosty, for a second I thought you said that you were going to prefer his game, so Kordas over the other youngins. Okay, Fonseca. Ooh. Oh, I love my Korda, but I thought, Ghosty, you were switching sides, and that would have been just something that I don't think I would have been able to just process. Either way, so happy for Rune, says Brenda. I hope he's rested enough to win over Sinner. Oof, that's the rough part. I don't think he's going to, but I was excited about this matchup. I don't know if I'm still excited. Maybe I will also, just like with the men's matches the other day, I will just wake up and tell you if I'm excited or not, like I did with Djokovic Mahac, where I suddenly just had this impending sense of doom. Either way, let's talk about the women's action that we had. And what was the biggest story today? Well, let's say that the favorites survived. The two bottom half favorites that we have, so Iga Świątek and Elena Rybakina, survived. But one of them has some concerns over her head now. And that someone is Elena Rybakina. That is because she had this back injury after about 3 games in that match. And as it later turned out, it's probably something relatively serious. Like at the press conference, she said that it might be crucial, that simply, like, at this point she cannot tell. But from what she can tell right now, it seems like it might be serious. So unfortunately, she is the biggest story, yes, and not for the match that she played. For the match that she played, we can say that, yes, Jastrzębska, last year's semi-finalist, she loses in the third round here, saved some of her points. At least she's going to stay in the top 100, I think around the number 70 mark. But yeah, what's going to happen with Rybakina, we don't know. And already on the screen here, we have the result of Madison Keys beating Daniel Collins. Of course, Collins, it was going to be like kind of a bit of a big story, how the crowd reacts to her. I think for the most part, it wasn't that disrespectful, right? I mean, of course, there were these iconic moments in the Collins-Ayava match, and also what happened later on Twitter. That was actually just destiny, not Danielle. But anyway, here, Keys defeats Collins. I don't think that's a particularly like massive result. She was in much better form. She was kind of one of the most dangerous dark horses, again, going into a slam, which she's been, like, it seems, the last 5 or 6 tournaments. Is it finally going to be a Madison Keys event? It could be, because again, if Rybakina is injured, if her back is gonna be a bother, then yeah, I mean, Keys definitely has a chance. Furthermore, if Rybakina is fit, I think Keys also has a chance. So let's see. I do think that this is going to be a fascinating matchup. Definitely one of the best we're going to see in the forefront between these two. I just hope we see it, right? Because we've had a fair share of withdrawals at Grand Slam level from Elena, and hopefully she's going to be fine. Yeah, I think, Joao, you're probably right that the Collins controversy was a little like overplayed, and most people wouldn't be the same that were there at the match against Destiny Ayava earlier. You worry over Keys' durability. Yeah, I mean, not yet, I guess, but in like a 5th, 6th, 7th match, potentially, yes. It's been a while, I guess. Although US Open 2023, she had that semi-final against Arena, which she probably should have won. Does she beat Coco in the final? Unlikely, but at that point, she was still doing fine physically. We'll see. Keys kind of has this habit of playing a lot before the slams, right? So I hope that she knows what she's doing, basically, considering that she's just constantly winning titles just before a slam. Either way, I think that Keys Rybakina is obviously a fascinating matchup. We've got Iga Świątek as well, whom I mentioned earlier, was the other like bottom half favorite playing today, and she played Emma Raducanu. That was one of the matches that we covered on the watch along at night with Vanch. Honestly, there was not that much to cover, which is why we switched to Mikkelsen, Khachanov, and Navarro Jabeur at the end of the match. But basically, what can I tell you about what's happened there? Iga's timing was on it from the get-go. Her aggressive returns were on it from the get-go. It's always going to be hard to stop her playing like this. And Emma, compared to the previous 2 matches, it's just a very different challenge. It's just a very different ball to what she had to face against Alexandrova and Anisimova. You know, in these matchups, she was just like blasted off the court with flat shots, had to be like economically offensive, let's say, whenever she can step in, whenever she can attack the second serve of the other player, like she has to do it. And she was good at picking these moments. But furthermore, I mean, they just didn't have the same safety. They just didn't have the same spin quality in their games as Iga has. And they cannot push Emma off the baseline as much as she can. I think there were a couple of definitely just like very good points from Raducanu there at the beginning of the match, when she was crashing her forehand and kind of reminding us of some of the rallies that she played when she won the US Open. But obviously that was very short-lived, and after all, it just became a massive demolition. Every single service game of Raducanu was just a nightmare. She kept getting just pressured by the second serve returns of Świątek. Whereas from the other standpoint, like, you know, the other perspective, in the other way, it wasn't really working out like this. I think Iga was serving pretty well as well. So yeah, just like I mentioned with Sinner earlier, I just don't feel like we've seen Świątek tested whatsoever. and today wasn't going to be the day. I mean, I don't think anybody was thinking about that. Either way, let's see, because Jake is mentioning that Emma's quotes in press were pretty interesting. I didn't see that, but he says that she seemed to put in more on what she didn't do more than the matchup problem itself. Well, I mean, Emma has had some fine matches against Iga in Stuttgart twice, so maybe that's why she's thinking about that. Maybe that's what she's considering. But again, it doesn't really seem like her like this year that the Australian Open courts play that fast. So even though Stuttgart is clay, it's that indoor slicker clay. Maybe it's a little easier there. Either way, I mean, yeah, it was just a mismatch. I think everybody expected it, but it was a mismatch. Good tournament for Emma, says Gavin. Yeah, I mean, solid. I mean, she withdrew from the only warm-up. We didn't know if she was going to play. We didn't know if she was going to be fit. To win 2 matches is fine. We know that at this point, Raducanu does not belong in the Swiatek, Rybakina, Goff, Sabalenka category. And it's just, more proof here, really. Evalis, who Gavin says is his future girlfriend, he has to be pretty quick because right now a lot of people are getting interested in her. I don't know if romantically, but definitely tennis-wise. Either way, I think Evalis is obviously one of the great stories of this Australian Open. She went to the forefront as a lucky loser, which I think, if I read it right earlier, is actually the first time this happens in women's singles. So a fantastic achievement. She already had the flight booked to, flight back home for the night after she, basically for the day after she got into the draw. She waits. I think she got in for like Martic, was it? No, I don't remember. Either way, she got in for somebody, and basically has the biggest result of her career right now, which is fantastic. But against Iga, I mean, her chances are pretty comically low again. I mean, decent, pretty aggressive ball striker, but we know what Iga does to these people, especially when they're not like other top players, right? It just you suddenly realize that against someone who has this much spin and pace combined, they're not actually aggressive anymore. Like, they're not able to. And they're probably just going to be like constantly under fire. So good luck to Evalis, but I think that matchup is pretty much where she has to end her Australian Open. So we'll see. This would be one of the biggest upsets we can possibly get at this event if she can pull this off. What's her ethnicity? I mean, she's German. That's what I can tell you. I don't know where her parents are from and where she was born, to be honest with you. Actually, no, I think she was born in Ukraine. So actually she would be ethnically Ukrainian. So yeah, never mind then. Yes, Evalis is breaking top 100 after the Australian Open draw. You're right to point this out. I had in mind just a second ago, but I was like, wait, did she actually break it last year? Because she was like at 105 or something like that. But no, yeah, I'm just checking that now. Yeah, 105 was her career high last year. So that's fine. How much of the big four women's dominance is based on their physicality? Actually, quite a lot, I think. Maybe not even sheer physicality, but just the weight of shot they play with. Like, I used this example on the watch along last night, but like when Hriet Minen played at Rybakina at the French, right? I remember talking about it so much. That like, yeah, these are aggressive ball strikers, and then they run into just this bulldozer who is just blasting every single shot to extreme proportions, and it's also pretty safe. There's so much topspin on it, and it's the same for all top four, really. Maybe less so with Goff, but probably becoming like this too. Sabalenka, Rybakina, and Swiatek, they just have levels of power and heaviness in their shots that most others on the WTA tour cannot touch, and they're also not used to it. So yeah, I think maybe based on that, but that comes from the physicality a little bit. Then again, would we say that Rybakina is like particularly physical? I mean, she's very tall, but she's not quite as physical as Sabalenka or Swiatek are, right? Either way, yeah, it really is another league, as Joao says. It's a combination of how heavy, especially, both shots are for them, right? Both wings. Either way, let's talk about the last 4 matches I think that we had. No, sorry, 3. I think we already mentioned 5 of them. No, actually, sorry, we only mentioned 4. So the last 4 matches on the WTA today, also with the watch along of Swiatek, Raducanu, and the brief mention of Mikkelsen, Khachanov. Me and Vansh watched a bit of Navarro, Jabeur. Well, if Ons doesn't lose the first 5 games, I think she probably has a better shot at winning this match. But the bigger story was just Emma Navarro surviving again. It's not obviously just pure determination and grit. That would just basically be an understatement of her tennis ability. But it's been it's very much been a week of just gritting it out for Emma. And I think not many were perceiving her as a strong contender to go deep at this Australian Open, not because of the seeding, but because her form seemed to have collapsed after the US Open. And maybe this is a way of getting it back. She's definitely been super tough to just, finish off this event. And so far, she's got 3 deciding set wins. She's into the 4th round. And this was much like the previous 2 encounters in many ways. We also had a match between Daria Kasatkina and Yulia Putintseva that I did not end up watching, to be honest. I think Putintseva was a very common dark horse pick to go to the 4th round, maybe even the quarterfinals. I'm trying to remember if I had her in my quarterfinals. No, I think I had Jabber beating her in the 4th round or something like that. Either way, she was defeated by Kasatkina in 2 sets, and that's going to be the next opponent for Navarro, the only Emma remaining in the draw, I think, just because Raducanu went out, not that it's important. Either way, they have played each other. No, actually, no. Yeah, I think I read it earlier that there's basically just one top 10 matchup in terms of the seeds in Melbourne. There's just one top 10 matchup that hasn't happened yet, and that's Kasatkina and Navarro. So now it will. And also we had Veronika Kudermetova getting back to the top 1 rank of the Kudermetova family. Of course, after the Brisbane final, Polina, first time in her career, ended up being the number 1 Kudermetova. And after the Australian Open, it's going to change again. Veronika has defeated Haddad Maia and Bolter now. So, I mean, we know what sort of potential she has, sort of when she is on fire. She's won Tokyo before, right? WTA 500, and has posted a fair few incredible wins. And yeah, I mean, she's just on top of her game, and it has that rhythm that was missing from her game for such a long while now. Is she going to be a massive problem for somebody else going forward? Yeah, I mean, she's playing Svitolina, so it seems quite open there. I think generally speaking, outside of Iga making the semis, which seems like almost a guarantee by now. She's playing Liz and then Navarro or Kasatkina. Both matchups seem to be pretty nice for her. Kasatkina much better than Navarro, even, obviously, considering her most recent encounters with Daria. Actually, almost all of her encounters with Daria. And then the top, let's say the 3rd quarter is looking a little bit more close. Rybakina, Keys, Kudermetova, Svitolina. We could have one of these scenarios where Rybakina Keys is a big battle and the winner is also a little banged up ahead of the next round. Why not? So Kudermetova to me over Svitolina will definitely, just have a shot. Elina, I don't think for a while either has been seriously considered as a big contender for Slam. Of course, there was this initial moment when she came back from the pregnancy and was playing this flat hitting, very aggressive version of her game under Raymond Sluiter. Then it kind of died down, I guess, after Australia last year, really. That's probably when it happened, right? Yeah, I think so. And now we weren't thinking of Svitolina too much because she hadn't played since the US Open. But she's back. She's defeated Kirstea, Dolhide, and today, of course, made the upset over Paolini, which I didn't see almost any ball from, so I'm not really going to tell you too much about it. But I will say, what a day for the Svitolina Monfils household, right? Gael, after his match, obviously was in the stands watching Elina defeat Svitolina. I was wondering about this, Gavin, because it seems like it's a ridiculous argument, right? That Veronika was determined to get back to the number 1 Kudermetova spot. But it could be the case. I mean, we know nothing about their dynamic in terms of how they interact as siblings. But I think for many, it could actually mean something. The fact that you're ranked higher than your sister. I think it could be a really good, friendly rivalry that makes your career progress a little bit more. It's possible. So I'm not sure this is the main reason why she's in the 4th round, but I think this really could be the case. Obviously, we don't really know anything about them and how they, how their lives are, how their relationship off the court is. Either way, I hate it when my brother beats me at Football Challenger. Yeah, sure. I don't have a sibling, but I mean, I am a very competitive person. So if somebody who I know very well beats me at something, let's say, or the case of Enrique Rocha and Jaime Faria, right? I mean, we had a lot of interviews with Jaime last year. I think the one that I did in Porto mentioned that again, he's going to be the number one over Enrique, and like kind of whether this is something they look at all. And Jaime just said that it's actually something that they definitely monitor, and they have a lot of jokes, and just this good chemistry about it, basically. 100% Joao with the foot. First event back, and she's already into the fourth round. What more can you want? I mean, what more can you want is definitely the Australian Open title and the first Grand Slam title for her. Let's see if she can do it. Of course, last year she also was at some point perceived as a pretty nice contender to like make the final from the top half, simply because Swiatek and Rybakina went out. Whereas eventually it ended up that she injured her back against Linda Noskova after like 3 games, and that was it. So hopefully nothing like this for her anymore, and maybe the story of Svitolina and Monfils can keep going at this event. All right, and we're just gonna now preview what's gonna happen tomorrow. By the way, another weird schedule in the sense that, again, we are starting with the women's, and this is more striking even, because every single women's match will be done by like 3-4 p.m. local time, and that's when the men begin. And I don't know how you guys think about that. It might sound weird coming from me because I'm usually not the one to pay attention. Like, for example, with the French Open, I've always been defending the organizers for putting only night sessions, for putting only men's matches in the night session. But that's because they only have one slot there, right? So basically, you want to ensure that it's going to be a best of 5 match potentially. And well, actually, this time it's not the case. So I really don't understand what's happening tomorrow with the order of play. But it is what it is. We're just going to have to follow it as they kind of release it. I made a tweet about it. I asked if someone was going to give me like a good reason for it. And other than, of course, like a bunch of actually not a bunch, but there was like 1 or 2 misogynists who just decided, well, because it's more popular and everything. Like, sure, it is more popular. I don't deny that. But we have parity at the US Open. We have parity, I don't know, in most other events that simply have 2 matches and 2 matches. And here, for whatever reason, we just decided to do it, like in this insane way, where 3 women's singles 4th rounds will be basically next to each other. But I don't know. Either way, 4th round tomorrow. Sabalenka Andreeva starting at 1:30. And this is, by the way, the match that had to be early because Andreeva is playing doubles. The other 7 players aren't. Whatever. Let's leave it for another day. After all, it's just the schedule. Not maybe something that I'm really invested in generally, but I've been following the orders of play that they released the entire week, and there's definitely a patterns there. I'm not saying what. I mean, I said I was always defending the organizers of the French Open, Ghosty. I really do, because there's just one match, and then you have to put the best of 5 in there. It's just way too big a risk. You can't just go with a Swiatek Potapova there and have 40 minutes in your night session for which you actually expected people to pay money for. Of course, you could also start the night session earlier, which is ridiculous that they don't do it. Either way, let's talk about what's going to happen tomorrow. So on the women's side, we have Sabalenka and Andreeva starting at 11:30 a.m. Local time. That's going to be a rematch for the recent Brisbane semi. As we know, Mirra defeated Arina at the French Open last year, but that was the match where the Belarusian had a stomach bug. Seems like this matchup has been a big thorn in Andreeva's career so far. She hasn't been able to handle it whatsoever. Again, it's what Joao mentioned in the chat earlier, and I was talking about it at length too. Just the insane weight of shots that Sabalenka has of both wings. It's tough, even for a defender as smart, as intelligent, as resourceful as Mirra. So that's kind of what I will say about this. Like, it would be a great big upset for Mirra if she can get it done. It would be a fantastic way for her career to progress forward. We have some doubts, I guess, regarding Sabalenka, or at least I remember some of you had. Her match against Clara Tauson was very good and very competitive. That's more on the underdog for me. But either way, Andreeva obviously is a fascinating matchup anytime we get these two. However, so far it doesn't seem like she is enjoying this rivalry too much, Mira. We've got Vekic and Pavlyuchenkova, which is obviously a good opportunity for either player. That's going to be like, just this match where both can definitely pull it off, and both will be looking forward into the event thinking, okay, there's some big names ahead, but this round, like, that's definitely up to me. And after that, I'm playing with house money. We've got Olga Danilovic, so the player who surprised Jessica Pegula just the other day. She is playing Paula Badosa. We know how consistent Badosa has been at the slams recently. If she can keep it up, it would definitely be a bit of a trend by now that, she's becoming this very reliable, stable top 10-ish player. And honestly, I kind of expect her to. I don't think she will be as vulnerable as Jessica Pegula. But as you probably know, if you've been watching these streams long enough, I do have a lot of respect for Danilovic as well. And Goff Bencic looks pretty fascinating simply because we have two big stories. It's going to be a question of like whether Belinda is already back in this sort of form where she can trouble Coco. We know what happened at the United Cup where Paulini just like blasts her off the court. Is it going to be the same with Goff? I guess a lot can depend on that forehand wing of Coco, if it's going to be more like United Cup or more like the Burge match, whether she actually has a weapon there, because that's something she could use in the Bencic matchup. But either way, obviously, the favorite is still Goff. We still are looking at a potential Sabalenka-Goff semifinal as maybe even the match to decide the title, but definitely the match that would, in this top half, be the most interesting from our perspective. They've played only twice, Goff and Bencic. Adelaide 2021, Belinda won, and then Washington 23 on the way to that US Open swing that was perfect for her. Coco defeated her 2-0. So not that much history. Obviously, the history can be kind of thrown out the window now that Bencic is coming back off her pregnancy break. Do drop shots work on Sabalenka if you can play them? Because, while she's definitely not the most comfortable inside the court, you kind of have to try to get her off the baseline. How can you play a drop shot when someone is playing like Sabalenka? When someone gets this much weight on both wings, you literally almost cannot play a drop shot in most cases. So, you might want to, but you're not. Like, is she fine at the net? Yes, but if you get her in on your own terms, it's a great play. Clara Towson actually used it nicely a few times. I think she had better success with the slice. But yeah, I mean, if you're playing somebody who is so good off the ground, you want to just break out of these patterns. You want to mix up the rhythm. But you're not going to be able to do it if you're just getting like every single shot is basically pushing you back 1 meter. And yeah, that's kind of the danger of, or basically the issue with going in with that tactic. But if you have a shot, and if you can lure her in to then, I don't know, pass her or lob her, yeah, why not? I mean, it can work, definitely. But I just don't see how you're gonna have a lot of chances to do it. That's my problem with this. Either way, that's gonna be the women's action, and then we'll also have the men again joining later in the day for whatever reason instead of mixing this up. But I actually think tomorrow might be a bit of a dud on the men's side. I mean, you have 4 matches with some pretty clear favorites. So Draper against Alcaraz, of course, Jack is coming off 3 consecutive 5-setters. I honestly cannot understand how he possibly could have the energy for this. I think this is possible that, he just comes out and sort of like Rune today, because he's tired, he plays a set that's going to be just so aggressive that Alcaraz has to take some time to adjust. But this is the best of 5 format, and he will have that time to adjust. He will have that time to outlast and outgrind Jack if needed. But there's also a real chance that Jack is just going to be a little bit too tired to even have that sort of a set. So I don't really buy this. Davidovich Fokina, Paul, I guess there's less in terms of just pure fatigue for the Spaniard, simply because he had 2 5-set matches. But still, they were in the second and they were in the third round. Both comebacks from 0-2 down. Then again, it's been a while since he had this many reasons to like feel confident about himself, to feel confident about his game. I just don't see what he does to Tommy Paul in general. Like, Tommy is just, a better serve, a better athletic, more athletic potential with the same like shot making quality. I don't really know what sort of edge is there for Davidovich Fokina. They played in 2023 in Australia. That was a 5-setter a couple of years back. I mean, I don't have to tell you that at the time, Tommy Paul was not quite as good as he is right now, and Alejandro Davidovich Fokina was much better than he is right now. Then they also played a couple more matches, and they were also won by Tommy. Miami 2023 and US Open 2023. These were a little easier. I don't see it at all. Ghosty, I mean, Draper at the US Open, he played 5 consecutive straight set matches, let me remind you. He did not struggle at all on the way to that semifinal. And Draper sure has good fitness because he also worked on it a lot during the off season. He was getting ready for the heat, even if it's not that hot. But I don't care that it's Draper. I really don't. It's not about Draper. It's about the fact that anyone in Draper's position would be absolutely knackered by now. And in fact, he was against Vukic, They were both knackered, and Alcaraz is not. Sometimes tennis is a very simple game. And there's a better player here who's also 10 times fresher. And that's all I have to say really about this match. Joao thinking that Bencic will have another reality check. When you go back to that match against Paolini, it's kind of hard to imagine Belinda improving this match in 20 days so that she can beat Goff now. But I don't know. Against some top players, Belinda is definitely one of their toughest matchups, right? Swiatek included, Sabalenka included, so maybe. Anyway, Zverev against Humbert, maybe this is the one where people will be looking at a potential, okay, yeah, this could get interesting. Ugo had a right shoulder injury against Arthur Fils. Then actually it was Fils who retired with that ankle problem, so it was a bit of a hospital on court. Either way, Zverev hasn't lost to a left-handed player in almost 2 years. That, of course, includes some matches over Humbert. I don't think the Paris final, the Bercy final at the end of last year, is exactly how this matchup has to be every single time. Definitely not. But at the same time, well, it makes sense, right? You can't just roll lefty spin into Zverev's backhand, or you can't really gain that much from these out wide lefty serves against him as you can against other opponents. Generally, he looks super sharp. Of course, he's serving great. He's just so consistent off the ground. Yeah, I don't really think this will be a win for Ugo, but maybe he can keep it close. Why not? And then Djokovic Lehečka, which before the event I would have said, yeah, I mean, that's an amazing match. I'm so excited for it. But having watched Djokovic Mahac, well, I kind of have to make a pivot, right? Do I? Of course, it will be fascinating if Thomas Mahac just completely gets destroyed, shut down by Novak, and then he sends in his checkmate, Iji Lehečka, to actually produce that checkmate. But well, yeah, I don't really think that will happen. So Djokovic Lehečka, even if before the event I was thinking this is a major opportunity for the Czech, I'm not sure I like the matchup. He's going to have to be redlining and executing his game so well. Novak has been serving incredibly when he has to. That match against Mahac, whenever there's a brief glimmer of hope for the Czech, he just shuts him down again. Either with the serve or just how good he was in these extended points too. Yeah, I am so much less excited about this match than I was before the tournament began. Maybe it will change when I see Iji Lehečka actually pushing Novak, taking the first set or something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised if all 4 men's matches tomorrow end up being just pretty horrible. And yeah, that obviously means that we're going to have Alcaraz, Djokovic, and Paul Zverev then. Keen, Draper is not near as fun to watch as he used to be. I mean, I would agree with that, but by the US Open, you were still very much in, just in the Draper camp, weren't you? So do you think that happened over the past month? I mean, it didn't, right? It's a process. Jack, when he was coming up, was a much more aggressive player, just a tall, big hitting lefty. And then he started developing a lot of, let's say, consistency in that game. And right now, he sometimes even overdoes it a bit. That match against Vukic, other than the breaker, the 5th set breaker, the 4th set ending. Yeah, I mean, Draper definitely had his moments there when he was just stuck behind the baseline and basically trying to roll in that lefty forehand and try to survive. Maybe even sometimes too much, because when you allow Vukic these chances to flatten out his inside forehand, he's super dangerous. So I think he's still struggling a little bit with that, especially considering his fitness. I think at some point it was hurting him, but right now, he seems to be much stronger physically indeed. So it's not going to be a problem. I think Draper is. This is why also he has a little bit of a ceiling issue now. Like he's going to be a very steady, high floor player. I just don't know if he has the ceiling of other super talented youngsters like Fonseca, like Shelton, like Fields, and etc. He will be more consistent than them, I think. Well, we'll see about Fonseca, but then like Shelton or Fields, he definitely should be more consistent. Either way, the way to win in today's pro tennis is to increase your skill set being boring. In a way, yes, because you're gonna be running. This is a power era, so like you're gonna be running into all of these players who just on the day they might be amazing or they might be a nobody. And then if you are that sort of like very efficient guy, yeah, you're going to be winning a lot, but you're not going to be winning against the other guys who are just redlining on the day, right? So that's the issue that a lot of players, I think, are facing at the moment. Yeah, Taylor Fritz, Karen Khachanov, Andrei Rublev, and the likes. Yannick Sinner to an extent, but he's just in another league. He's not actually having any issues other than against Alcaraz. But yeah, Taylor Fritz today and Karen Khachanov, as I said, this was definitely a day of the demise of one-dimensionality through a couple of very intelligent and very aggressive performances from the underdogs. I know that calling that performance from Gael Monfils aggressive is a little controversial, but I mean, he just kind of found the right balance between all of his assets, really. So either way, Sinner versus Ruud. No, Sinner versus Ruud is not an interesting matchup, and it will not be played at the Australian Open. At the US Open, I was already at the Australian Open. Sinner versus Rune, I already mentioned earlier. I mean, right now it seems like Holger shot himself in the foot today by once more struggling. I know what you meant. I was just joking, but yeah, I mean, it seems like Rune shot himself in the foot today. But otherwise, yeah, their matches have been kind of close. I don't know if I would have been a believer in Holger winning, but maybe just pushing Sinner, and that would have been a very good result for him already if he just made it very competitive. And Keen, do you think Mahat Zhang can go all the way? I mean, well, I'm not going to be lying to you. I haven't been watching too much of the men's doubles, definitely. Not yet, at least. I think I will probably pick up a bit more during the second week when there's just more time for it. Obviously, they were in the semis last year. I think they do match up together extremely well. Mahat has that, the return skills and the hands. Triple Z just delivers the big power. And if they have a nice draw, let me actually see where they are. They're going to be playing Nis, Roger Vasleum. Okay, I mean, this is definitely winnable. Heliovara Paten maybe in the quarters. Yeah, I mean, it's doubles. We know that it gets a little bit random. Arevalo Pavic probably still the big favorites alongside Borelli Vavasori in the top half. Well, they could use some upsets to get there, let's just say. But I do think they're probably among the top 8 of the last 16 contenders. Yeah. I mean, you've got pairs like Borges Cabral, Griekspoor van de Zandschulp, Martinez Munar. They have to be better than them, right? Or Savi too. Yeah, they're probably middle of the pack at the moment. And maybe if there's a few more upsets and they don't have to face Arevalo Pavic or Borelli Vavasori in the final, then maybe. Well, Keen Sonego is not yet in a Grand Slam quarterfinal, but he might get there unless you're just simply thinking that Lerner Tien has no chance of stopping him or something like that. Either way, I think this is where we're going to finish. Once more, sorry for my rambling for about an hour. I was good at my prediction, actually. This was the best prediction I made during this Australian Open, that I'm going to be sitting here talking for about an hour, even though we had the last minute withdrawal and I'm going solo. But, well, what am I going to say? Thank you guys for the comments. It was definitely once more very interesting to talk to you. Thank you, Gavin. I felt like I was losing the plot a few times. I definitely wasn't fully ready with everything I wanted to say. I mean, I wasn't ready at all with anything I wanted to say. This was all very spontaneous as usual. So I think sometimes I was just either focusing too much on something that I was saying and forgetting about the comments, or then the other way around. But either way, we somehow managed to get through. Well, Keen, I mean, glad I didn't go with Hamad to win OA Rush. To be honest with you, that whoever I went with, which at this point I can't even remember, did not do better than Hamad Medjedovic. So, I went with Dan Evans, yeah, and he lost to Gustavo Elias indoors. So, great stuff. Anyway, yeah, my best prediction was that I'm gonna be sitting here for an hour, and since this is an hour, I'm just gonna have to call it quits so that it doesn't get longer and my prediction doesn't get horrible. Anyway, thank you, Gavin. Thank you, everybody. Let's just keep watching the Australian Open. We're gonna have the ready plays and the last ball drops for you. Watch-alongs, I'm not sure yet, but just keep checking the channel and you're gonna know it all. But yeah, once more, thank you. thank you, Ghosty. My ceiling in the streaming game is high. I hope to keep improving and hope developing. Thank you once more, and see you probably sometime soon. Bye.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.